Hello! So if you just started the game as a Marauder and looking to become a warrior, or just wanted to check out the job, this guide is for you. I'll be covering up to level 50 warrior in this guide. If you want to look at the later levels of the job, I suggest looking at my idiot skills / abilities guide to warrior as I go over it there. Before we begin, I want to state something important for any new players watching this video. Please do your class quests. They show up underneath your main scenario guide, which is usually in the top left corner of your screen. Class quests are very important as they provide you with new weapon skills and abilities, as well as your warrior jobstone at level 30, so make sure you do them. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Let's start by talking about your weapon skills and abilities you should have unlocked by level 15, which will be Heavy Swing, Maim, Berserk, Overpower, Defiance, Tomahawk, and the role actions Rampart, Low Blow, and Provoke. Heavy Swing is your beginning DPS move and the first part of your main combo. Maim is the second part of your main combo, as indicated by the orange dotted border around the weapon skill. Whenever you're attacking using your main combo, always make sure to start by using Heavy Swing, then using Maim after. Combos are important as they increase the damage of the next combo action when pressed in order. Berserk will make it so your next 3 weapon skills will be critical direct hits. At level 15, you can pretty much use Berserk off cooldown, as you don't really need to worry about what weapon skills you're using it on. Overpower is your AoE weapon skill and should be used on 2 or more enemies. Defiance is your tank stance and should be on almost all the time. This is because tank stance generates enmity or aggro on enemies. Since you are a tank, your job is to hold the enmity on enemies, so that way they don't attack your healers or DPS. So make sure this is on when you're tanking. Tomahawk is your ranged attack that'll increase the enmity on any enemy you hit with it. This is very good when starting fights, as you almost guarantee that you start with enmity on the enemy. It's also helpful for grabbing enemies that aren't aggro to you. Going over the role actions, Rampart will reduce damage taken by 20% for 20 seconds. Rampart is one of your defensive cooldowns. Whenever you're tanking, make sure to use Rampart in order to reduce the damage taken from the mobs you're fighting, even if you're at full health. Low Blow will stun your target for 5 seconds. Stuns are helpful if there is an enemy or early game boss doing an AoE attack and you don't want them casting it. Provoke will make it so you're put on top of the enmity list on that enemy. It also generates additional enmity as well. Similar to Tomahawk, you can use Provoke to take the aggro on an enemy so they don't attack your party members. Going over the level 15 opener in rotation, you should make sure you have Defiance on, then start any encounter with Tomahawk in order to gain enmity. Then use Berserk, use Heavy Swing into Maim, and keep spamming your main combo over and over till the enemy is dead. Make sure to use your defensive cooldown if necessary as well. For the AoE rotation, simply spam Overpower, and feel free to use Berserk on it as well. Use your defensive cooldown if necessary as well. You can easily practice openers and rotations like these at the striking dummies in Summerford Farms in Middle Lenosha. Before we move on to the level 30 weapon skills and abilities, I want to talk about tanking in dungeons, as you'll be doing a lot of dungeons going forward. Like I stated earlier, make sure you have your tank stance on throughout the entire dungeon. Since you're the only tank, you never need to turn it off. Pull the dungeon mobs using Tomahawk in order to gain enmity. Most mobs will come towards you in groups, so when they get close enough, use Overpower in order to gain enmity on the other mobs that you didn't hit with Tomahawk. You can choose to pull more mobs than just one pack, which is known as wall-to-wall pulls, but only do this if you feel confident that you and your healer can handle it. Keep an eye on the enemy list as well. If any enemy does not have a red square next to their name, they've lost enmity on you, and you'll need to either Tomahawk, Provoke, or use Overpower in order to gain enmity on them again. Usually when tanking dungeon pulls, you should just be spamming Overpower in order to deal damage and hold enmity. Like I stated in the rotation, you can use Berserk in order to make each hit of Overpower be a critical direct hit, which will take out the pull of mobs a lot quicker. Make sure you're using your defensive cooldowns like Rampart when tanking the mobs, as without mitigation, you'll be taking more damage and will probably die if you're not careful. When you start unlocking more defensive cooldowns, make sure to not pop all of them at once when tanking a dungeon pull. You should aim to spread them out throughout a pull, so that way you constantly have a source of mitigation and won't be taking a lot of damage. When fighting a dungeon boss, make sure the boss is pointed away from the party, as they'll sometimes do an AoE in front of them, which is known as a cleave, and you don't want these to be pointed at your party. Dungeon bosses will sometimes have moves known as tank busters. If you ever see this symbol around your character, that means a tank buster is coming up. you should use your defensive cooldowns in order to mitigate the damage from tank busters, as they'll hurt quite a bit if not mitigated. If you want a more quick rundown of what I just described here, you can check out my Idiot's Guides to Tanking, which will be linked down below. Moving on to level 30, you should have unlocked your Warrior Jobstone from your class quests. You can equip the Jobstone by going into your character menu, selecting the bottom right slot of your character, and equipping it from there. Now to move on to the weapon skills and abilities. You should have unlocked Storm's Path, Thrill of Battle, and the role actions Interject and Reprisal. Storm's Path is the third part of your main combo, so now you should be doing Heavy Swing, into Maim, then into Storm's Path. Storm's Path will also heal you a little bit as well. Thrill of Battle will increase your maximum HP by 20% for 10 seconds. It'll also heal you for the amount that was increased. Thrill of Battle is another defensive cooldown, so make sure to use this during dungeon pulls and tank busters. Going over the role actions, Interject will interrupt a target's cast. If you see the enemy cast bar ever pulsating red, that means you can interrupt that cast, so make sure to interrupt those moves. Reprisal will decrease the damage dealt of all nearby enemies by 10% for 10 seconds. This is another defensive cooldown, and it's very helpful when doing dungeon pulls. You should also use this on dungeon bosses as well, especially if they do a raid-wide attack that hurts the whole party. Going over the level 30 opener and rotation, nothing's really changed besides the addition of Storm's Path. Everything else is still the same, except make sure to do the whole combo and not stop at Maim like before. The AoE rotation is still just spamming Overpower. Before we go on, if you're enjoying this video so far, I highly suggest you subscribe and leave a like, as it helps a lot. If you want to support me even further here on YouTube, you can hit the join button and become a member. It's only $1 a month, and anything helps. I also stream on Twitch and YouTube almost every week, so if you want to watch me live, be sure to check out the Twitch link in the description below, or look out for my streams on YouTube. Thanks so much for your support. Anyways, I want to talk about level 35 before jumping ahead to level 50, as this is when you unlock Inner Beast, your Beast Gauge, and the trait, the Beast Within. Whenever you use Maim and Storm's Path in the combo, it'll increase the Beast Gauge by 10 and 20 respectively. When you reach 50 on the Beast Gauge, you can use Inner Beast, which is a pretty strong single target weapon skill. With unlocking Inner Beast and your Beast Gauge, you can use Berserk to do a lot of damage. So with this in mind, your level 35 opener rotation should be starting out with Tomahawk, then doing your main combo once in order to build up 30 Beast Gauge, then doing the combo again, but this time making sure to use Berserk after the heavy swing in this combo, then Maim, Storm's Path, and then Inner Beast. From here on, keep doing your main combo and use Inner Beast whenever your Beast Gauge is at or above 50. Now to jump ahead to level 50 Warrior, you should have unlocked Vengeance, Mithril Tempest, Holmgang, Steel Cyclone, Storm's Eye, Infuriate, and the role actions Arm's Length and Shirk. Vengeance will reduce damage taken by 30% for 15 seconds. It'll also deal damage to any enemy that hits you with the physical attack. This is another defensive cooldown, so use it during dungeon pulls and for tank busters. Mithril Tempest is the second part of the AoE combo, meaning whenever you use Overpower, make sure to use Mithril Tempest after, and don't spam Overpower. Mithril Tempest will also give you Surging Tempest, which will increase your damage dealt by 10% for 30 seconds. This can be extended to 1 minute as well. Berserk will now also extend Surging Tempest by 10 seconds when you use it. Holmgang will make it so you cannot fall below 1 HP for 10 seconds. This is your invulnerability and should be used whenever you find yourself in a dangerous situation and you need to keep yourself alive. This is also the earliest a tank learns their invuln, and also has the lowest cooldown timer out of all of them. Also be warned, if you're targeting a dungeon mob and use Holmgang, they'll get a debuff with the same name, and if that mob dies, you'll lose Holmgang entirely. So make sure you either target yourself, a high HP enemy, or nothing in order to make sure you can get the full duration of Holmgang and not have it end early. Steel Cyclone is the AoE version of Inner Beast. Unfortunately, however, none of your AoE weapon skills give you Beast Gauge, so you won't really be using this that often. However, that will somewhat change later. Storm's Eye will give you Surging Tempest for 30 seconds and give you 10 Beast Gauge. It's also another option for the third part of your main combo, meaning you should be using Storm's Eye in order to get Surging Tempest, and then refreshing it whenever it drops below 10 seconds. Infuriate will give you 50 Beast Gauge, and you have 2 charges of this ability. Be careful not to overcap your Beast Gauge as well with Infuriate. If the Beast Gauge is over 50, make sure to use Inner Beast or Steel Cyclone before using Infuriate. This is also how you're able to use Steel Cyclone during dungeon pulls. Going over the roll actions, arm's length will make it so any enemy that hits you will be slowed by 20% for 15 seconds, meaning this is another defensive cooldown to use during dungeon pulls, but not necessarily tank busters, as the slow doesn't usually affect bosses. Arm's length also has a second effect, where it'll negate most knockback and draw-in effects. Not many early game bosses have mechanics like this, but you'll sometimes be knocked back, and you can negate this by using arm's length before the knockback goes off, so that way you won't be affected by it. Shirk will transfer 25% of your enmity to a targeted party member. This shouldn't really be used on anybody besides another tank, which you won't see till later on in the game. I mainly go over Shirk in my Idiot's Guide to Tanking. Going over the level 50 opener in rotation, start any encounter with Tomahawk, then use Infuriate in order to have it on cooldown and to gain 50 beast gauge. Then do your main combo and end it with Storm's Eye in order to gain Surging Tempest. Then start another combo and use Berserk after Maim. Use Storm's Path and use 2 Inner Beasts, then use Infuriate and another Inner Beast. For the AoE rotation, simply spam your AoE combo, which is Overpower into Mithril Tempest, and use Infuriate in order to use Steel Cyclone. Overall, Warrior is a really fun and simple tank. It gets really fun later on in the game, since you get to spam a really funny button. But yeah, with that, I hope you enjoy your time tanking as a warrior going forward, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye! Hey everybody! If you enjoyed the video, you should consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. I have links to my Discord and other social media in the description below. Thanks so much for watching.